Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining our monthly webinar. And for this month, we are going to talk about another uh, timely topic with the hype of Apple Vision Pro and lots of other uh, virtual and augmented reality devices and the talks around metaverse. We are going to talk about the future of augmented and virtual reality. For this webinar and discussion, we have a person who has done a lot of work in this space throughout his PhD. Now he's a research fellow at the National University of Singapore. So let me invite Dr. Prasant Sasikumar to join this discussion. Hi, Prasant.
Thanks, Suranga.
Hey,
Thanks
thanks
for the
for
introduction, Suranga.
yeah, no worries. Thanks for joining for this discussion. Uh, As I was telling the viewers, it's a high time about virtual reality, mixed reality, metaverse,
Mhm.
all of that, and a lot of buzzwords are going around. I know you have done quite a lot of work in this space during your PhD. So maybe for all our viewers, shall we clarify these buzzwords? What is augmented reality? What is virtual reality? What is mixed reality? That would be useful for people to sort of understand the context. Maybe you can give a bit of a explanation on what these different terms means.
Yeah, sure. So, you would hear these terms like augmented reality, virtual augmentality, mixed reality, cross reality, all of those things. So, let's take that as a spectrum. See, this. Consider this side of the phone as the real world, and consider this side of the phone as the virtual world. So this is entirely composed of what you see around you, and this is entirely composed of things that is created by a computer. So close to this side, to the real side, what you have is augmented reality, which is mostly created of things that you really see, the things that are in existence, and a few 3D or 2D digital content on top of it. An example of that would be your Snap filter or your Facebook filters that you see your face with and augment digital content on top of it. What you see to this side is could be called augmented virtuality, which is you basically have a lot of three-dimensional objects that are created by a computer, but you can also bring your real world cues to it. Say you're watching a movie in your VR headset, and you have most of the content is being digitally created by the VR headset, but you could have your table or the couch or some part of the real world in that space. So that would be this side. And anything that you have between these two can be considered mixed reality, or the same as called cross reality. So these are, well, in very simple terms, the terms. Yeah.
Right. Thanks. That was really good. So, I guess recently there was a lot of hype about these topics with the introduction of Apple Vision Pro, uh, and
Mhm.
certainly, that's not the first consumer grade AR VR device. There were a lot of other things, Meta Quest Pro, Oculus, all those things. And do you think any difference with Apple Vision Pro? Do you think it's going to make VR, AR into more mainstream, or it's just a
Hmm.
marketing hype at this point?
Yeah, that's a very, very timely question, Suranga. So I would say so this is speculation from my side that I would say that Vision Pro. I'm glad to see that this device exists and good to see that Apple is putting their money in. So this is more like an iPhone moment. It's like they released a headset which has a lot of cameras. It has 12 cameras, 5 sensors, has an LCD screen up front, which also is glass laminated and curved. It has 23 million pixels. So the specs are huge, something that we haven't seen in other headsets. But the price is also quite expensive. But this is more like them testing the waters to see how where the technology could be or what we could make of it. It's just like how iPhone came out and it was very expensive compared to all the Android phones at the time. And when you compare with that, this is more like this particular device might not be the successful one, but this could pave path for the future ones, Vision Pro 10 or 11 or 12. which would be really good and which we would be using just like our iPhone today.
Right, right. So
Yeah,
maybe let's talk about some real use cases of these augmented virtual reality. And so I know you have done some work related to this, especially in the space of remote collaboration, which means you and I can go to a same space and work on something together, where you might give me some instruction, I might be able to follow that, and that's still very abstract. Can you talk about
yeah,
one specific project that you did during your PhD, so that everyone understand a use case of virtual and augmented reality?
sure, sure. So I can explain something before, and then I can maybe show a video or something of my one of my projects. So let's take one use case, which let's say you're on a holiday somewhere very far on a remote island somewhere, and your car doesn't start the next day. So the best thing you have for help to get things going right now is to call a friend or a mechanic and do a video call with your phone to try to sort out help. When you do this, or if when you have done some sort of video helping, you've seen that the other person might eventually get frustrated. In this specific case, the mechanic or the friend who is expert might get frustrated because you are moving the viewpoints for them and they don't have the spatial cues standing next to the vehicle. Same way, when they say something like check the spark plug or something like that, you would be confused of as in where is it, how can I find it, and so on. To solve these things, what I did my initially during my PhD was to create a cluster of cameras that can recreate this entire engine bay and stream that on a VR headset so that the mechanic or this expert can move around as if they are standing right next to you. And at the same time, when they say something like check the spark plug, and if you didn't understand, these days we are wearing smartwatches, headbands, and all of those things which have access to a lot of physiological data like your heart rate, skin conductance, EEG, and so on. So all this information, you could get emotional state of the person as to they understood it or their cognitive load went up. So which means the mechanic would know that you didn't understand it and he could explain it further before you ask for it. So a combination of this was my work. So I can show you a quick video if that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be nice.
Um, Let me share my screen. Not that. Um, let's go with this. So this was one of the posters in 2019. So imagine that this is the case where I said about the engine, and you have the mechanic trying to help you, and this is what you see. The mechanic would tell you what component to take and where to place. So the arrow you see will tell you where to place. So we tried playing around with different types of input mechanisms like hand gestures or giving instructions through annotations. But this is the beginning of it, and so this is a reconstructed area of the space. So just like how I said in the case of reconstructing the entire engine bay, in this you could see that the entire space of that cubicle is being captured and recreated by a cluster of cameras. And these cameras can capture everything as point clouds and stream it to a VR headset where an expert can help guide or navigate. So yeah, this is one of those projects.
So that's great. So I guess the point is that the remote person sees what you are looking at, and then they can annotate things in your view, so there's no ambiguity, right? So that's really
No,
the
no. Also a few other things that we take for granted, as in when you have a face-to-face conversation, most of the time you get to see exactly where I am looking, my eye gaze, my micro gestures, my hand gestures, and all of those things. But when we have a Zoom call like this, most of the time we don't get to see those features. So when you have a mixed reality collaboration system in VR or AR, we could have all these things. We could see a representation or an avatar representation, or you could also have an eye gaze going out of your eye exactly to the point where you're looking. So if I'm looking to this water bottle in real life, you would have an idea where I'm looking at, but in virtual world you could have point exactly at where you want to look at, and it will tell you an eye gaze of. So there are some other cues that you benefit from having an augmented reality experience as well.
right. I guess we can think of many use cases, right? In even in situations where we need specific information on the go, like someone doing a surgery, overlaying the right information, someone doing flight maintenance, checking if things are done properly. There's so many use cases. So I think it's quite
Yes.
clear the powerfulness of this. I'm sure it
Yeah.
comes with some price, right? What are the some of the risks and
Hmm.
challenges apart from
Yeah.
the difficulty of realizing that technically these things? There must be some other
Yeah.
challenges.
Yes, there is. So one main thing that we have right now is the capabilities of the device. The screens that we have, they are not as good as it can be. Like the Apple Vision Pro promises to have an extremely really good visual screen. All these devices, the main drawback, as I would say, is say 10 years ago when Google released its Google Glass, which was one of the first devices to come out that is wearable and is an augmented reality headset. Um, those devices, the main reason why it was not a commercial success, let's say, was that it is not socially acceptable to wear something like that and walk around. So those kind of design problems still exist to this day. 10 years later, it's slightly better, but those kind of things we need to make them um, to a point where these are really easy to wear and doesn't stand out so much. Like wearing a big bulky headset on your forehead, like something like this on your forehead and walking around like that is wouldn't be socially acceptable. I don't think would be acceptable in the next 10 years as well. The other thing is data privacy and security, because with phones, what you have today is um, you have a lot of your data in these things, which includes your bank details, your personal information, and so on. But when you move onto these devices, you tend to collect a lot more data, like your physical movement, how much you move, physiological data like your skin conductance, your heart rate, all this information. Also, your how mobile you are, general fitness data and so on, which could be used to draw behavioral traits, which would be useful for the applications, but might be risky if someone gets hold of that information, which means they would have a better profile of you. So these are some of the risk concerns, but there are lots of things that needs to be fixed. There are lots of usability issues, and there are lots of potential in this field. Right now, there are also lots of risks as well.
Right, and it's good to have these challenges to work on so that we can keep ourselves employed and do some research. And I can add one couple of things I read related to these risks. And as you rightly said, not only it can capture all this information, but also it can overlay certain information, for example, subliminal cues that you probably even won't recognize that you saw this, but
Yeah.
your decision making, your perception can be influenced by flashing things real quickly. And then for me personally, a big one is I find it very difficult to use this for long period. I get some motion sickness artifacts. So there are a lot to work on, which is, as I said, good for researchers like you. There are enough and more problems. Uh, can I also, pose this question to you? I know when you joined the Augmented Human Lab, we were doing, quite a number of things, and you managed to increase our exposure to augmented and virtual reality. How has been your experience so far in terms of getting everyone to try these devices at least once and be part of some of the exciting experiments?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So it's been great. It's been amazing. This is a wonderful team of people to work with here. We have people doing research in AI and machine learning and large language models to detect emotions, using physiological signals to detect emotion. All of these are really good tools that would augment the human abilities. So as augmented reality or virtual reality. So it's a really good place to be to work on, and I'm blessed to be working with people who are very smarter than me. So it's really nice. So I would strongly say that if anyone who's watching gets an opportunity to be part of the lab in any form or way, be it an internship or a work, I would strongly suggest you take it up, because there is a lot to learn, and every day is a learning experience. So it's really great so far. My experience with Augmented Human Lab and NUS has been amazing. So thank you
Great. So
for that,
we'll we'll
Suranga.
we'll get one last question going before we open up the floor for audience. And uh,
Sure.
just a reminder, you can ask questions through various channels through Facebook, and we will grab them as many as possible. So keep sending your questions in, and right after this, we'll get to that. So as a last point, do you want to share any thoughts on what could be the future of AR VR, specifically maybe what might be the low hanging applications that we see more and more of AR VR?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. It's a great domain to be in right now because there is the domain of augmented reality or virtual reality gives a lot of potential for teaching, training, learning, mixed reality for remote collaboration. Like what most of my work is about. I can actually show a few more of some of the work that I've done. Just a quick video, maybe.
Yeah,
Um, so this is a work I did with Massey University. So this is a fire safety training tool. So this dude would come up and walk with you all the way around and will tell you that there's a fire in the room and you have to find the room and find the fire and it'll tell you what to do on what not to do. So it's right now telling you to close the door so that the oxygen supply is cut off and they close the door and then it tells you to turn on the fire alarm and whatnot. So this is one use case where you could use these things as tools to train or to get familiar with a place. Um, Another use case would be the same video again, the first part of it. So this is an engine, and a lot of my work is related to cars and motorcycles and engines and working on them. That's why I use that example. These tools, this is an augmented reality experience. This could be done with Vision Pro. You could have people guide the other person using different types of ways to work on an engine. So if you've never worked on an engine, these tools can help you do these things as if someone is right there standing with you. And the good thing is that you can actually walk up and stand inside the person's point of view and experience how they experienced by fixing the vehicles. In YouTube videos, you can't do that. So right now, you're viewing it from the person's view. So these are some things that you could see. Um, Another thing would be, say, you walk into a car showroom. You could have a replica of the car in the space, and all you have to do is to change colors, maybe walk inside, and you don't have to actually have the car. So you could have, say, you're selling X commodity, and if the commodity is not there, you could have a virtual representation, and you could get the customers have that experience of feeling it or how does it look like. And these things could be done with AR. This was done long time ago in 2019 using a headset called Magic Leap. That headset was fun at the time. Yeah, there's quite a few work like that, but yeah, I'll come back to it. So this is what I see. What I would say the future of augmented reality or virtual reality or these wearable devices could do. Could be used as a tools for training. Could be used as tools for learning new stuff and collaborating together in this space. Like how Meta sees it, I appreciate how their vision is about the metaverse and the Horizon platform, where you could have meetings and collaborate on things together being wherever you are. You could be in a very remote island, chilling comfortably fine, and you could put on a headset, and you guys could, and multiple people could come to a virtual space, discuss things, build things together, and then go back to the nature. So these are some things that we could do with these technologies that we
great.
have.
So we have a couple of questions from the audience. So Irene is
Mhm.
asking, would you see as future of AR VR less bulky solution as opposed to existing solutions, or disruptions which would allow for an immersive experience using different technologies?
Right. So as I would say, getting these social acceptance is a big thing for any AR or VR devices to succeed. So right now you have HoloLens, which is sort of an augmented reality headset, which is not very bulky, but it is still quite a bit on your face. And then what they've made very cleverly is that you could flip it up when you have the face-to-face conversations with a person. You could flip it up just like a cat or cap, and then you could have an eye-to-eye contact, and when you're done you could put it back and then view augmented reality experiences. So right now, we all these devices we have are unfortunately quite bulky, and we probably would need them to be less bulky and more like spectacles or glasses that you wear, so that they would be socially acceptable, and then it would become more mainstream, is what I think.
Right, right. So as you rightly said, you know, getting the size smaller, getting the weight down is only one aspect, but thinking about how this can influence the daily activities, daily engagement of the user, and even think about the comfort for the user, acceptance from the external parties as well as the self acceptance to use it. Right, those are
Yeah,
important factors.
definitely,
So we have
definitely.
one more question from Shamain. So he's asking, when considering the privacy implications, do you think the future of AR and VR technologies will lean towards on-device processing or cloud-based processing?
That's a very good question. Um, some information, unfortunately, has still have to be cloud based, and but most of the information about the systems, if they are locally processed, you would might be able to protect them more, just like your iPhone. Um, the one another thing aspect of that I wanted to touch on very quickly was that Nvidia recently released something called Cloud XR. Not recently; it's been more than a year, but it's still in beta. So that is what they say, or their vision of how this XR or augmented reality, virtual reality domain will turn out, is to be entirely cloud based. So you'd have a cloud somewhere, and then these headsets would merely be connected through Wi-Fi 6 to the nearest router, and the information, whatever you see, would be streamed in real time to your glasses. So, say I said about a virtual space that you and other people could come in and visit, the entire thing would be cloud based, and you could stream you based on your movement, just like how Google released the Stadia gaming platform. You could move around, and this movement will be transferred to the cloud, and the virtual camera in the cloud will fetch whatever you want to see into your eyes. So that's how Nvidia sees it. So if that is the way we go into the future, you only need to protect what's in the cloud. So you could have like a very mainstream or a very hardcore protection system of privacy implemented in the cloud, and one solution that fixes it. But we'll have to wait and see how, when the mass adoption happens, if it would be stored
So just
locally
a
mostly.
additional question to that. The privacy issues has been there even with the smartphones and all these other smart devices like Amazon Alexa and all these things. So I'm just trying to understand if there's anything additional that comes with these devices, or uh, it's the same thing. You can have the same question for a smartphone and try and say, can you process more locally and then do less in the cloud, or you can even talk about what you just said, everything on the cloud and real time stream to your phone. So is there anything specific to these AR/VR technologies that are more privacy concerning, or it's the same discussion now that moves into a different form factor altogether?
Hmm. So I'll give an example of that. Imagine that you're in metaverse, and it's as let's compare that to visiting a website. When you visit the website, the Amazon or the crawlbots actually look for what kind of search history that you do, or what products you are tend to more click, and then it recommends those things for you. Same way in the VR environment, say let's say metaverse, if you walk towards something, or it knows information about how much you move, what kind of activities that you like to do, what are the places that you look through, because it has your eye gaze and hand gestures and all of those information. So it can predict things like you're an active person, you're a lazy person, and you're bound to look in that direction or do things in a specific way, your height, all those information. There's a lot more information than there would be on a typical phone. So you could create a bigger and better profile of a person. Um, so that would be the main key point of that, because in phone you still have a lot of data, your bank details and all of that. But in this case, you have a whole new dimension of data as well, your eye gaze and hand gestures and all these information. So those informations would be enough to impersonate you as another clone of you in VR or this virtual space. So right now, since we're building all these devices and states, we are not paying so much attention to the security of all this information. So it's easier for someone to than fake as you in a virtual world than to steal information from your phone. So as we grow in more number of devices and sensors that we have in these devices, we would need to find ways to protect them as well.
Right. So we need to be consciously optimistic about these technologies. So
Yeah.
we have actually spent a lot longer than a typical webinar we do. Thank you so much for sharing all this information, and those who joined us. If you have more questions, you can send them through Facebook and other channels, and feel free to visit our website www.ahlab.org, and we'll come back next month again with another timely topic. For today, once again, Prasant, thank you so much for joining us with all your busy schedule. I hope this was useful for those who joined. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Suranga, for the opportunity. Thank you very much.